Hey guys, thinking about coming to the Philippines, making that your new home, or maybe you're already here and you start to realize your budget needs a serious reality check. Forget those basic, travel cheap, live here cheap guides for a moment. This is about building a sustainable budget for an expat for long term and some of the things that you really want to consider and take note of and navigate you through those kind of real costs that are going to come up and some of the unexpected ones. All right, so I just basically want to give you a quick little summary. Hey, my name is Brian. I've been going back and forth to the Philippines now for the last 8 years. It gives me a really good, clear perspective on things and costs and everything going back and forth. And I basically share my journey. It's all about finding that budget-friendly inner peace, happiness, and I just try to share those moments with you. So let's get right into it, a little bit beyond the surface issues. So you've got your rent, you've got your food, you've got your basic entertainment. That's all. That's a budget, and this really pertains to people that are kind of been thinking about this for a long time. Really want to get away from the rat race. They may want to consider an early pension or whatever it may be, and you're kind of floating right along the borderline. This is where it's going to be really important for you guys, okay? Because this is my advice on that type of budget, okay? Everything else you've got figured out. You got your food, you got your rent. Okay, we're plateaued out in that one right now. So you got your visas. You probably heard about how the visas work and so on and so forth. But there's a couple things I want to touch base with on that, okay? As it stands right now, yes, you can stay in the Philippines for up to 3 years on a tourist visa, okay? Then you have to leave the country. You might be aware of that as well. But keep in mind, if you've been there for 3 years, you're also paying for an exit visa, okay, before you can leave. That gets expensive too. Now, I've paid, when I did my one and only time where I had to do it, I paid, I think it was over 3,000 or closer to 5,000 pesos. But I did have to get an agent. It was COVID time, but anyway, I don't know how much it really costs if you get an agent or whatever, but it still adds up. The other thing to keep in mind is, as like I said earlier, you're allowed to stay up to 3 years, which is significant. But they might change that. They might tighten that back up. They might bring it back down to less than that. Maybe it's only a year. Then these are things you're going to have to add into your budget scheme of things. Okay, and that does make a difference. And then, by the way, guys, everything I do for information-wise and all of that, I get hands-on. That's why I hesitate with my exit visa where it was, because it was only the one time, and I did have to get an agent. When I do my driver's license, when I get my motorcycle test, and I get the insurance, everything I do, and anytime I make videos on that kind of stuff, it's hands-on. I don't get a fixer. I literally do it myself. Did my bank account, I did everything on my own. And I feel that's much more important, so you get a real boots on the ground kind of way to how it goes. And for me personally, I like doing it that way anyway. Especially when it comes down to driver's license and all this kind of stuff, I want to make sure it's done properly and right, and it's registered. But anyway, so that's something that you really want to keep in mind. Like I said, the visas that can change. Okay, another one that's on the same theme of things that can change. It's going to be the peso, and I think this is highly untapped into and unaccounted for. When you're floating and you're just making a kind of like, okay, this is going to get me there. I can make it work. Right now, for the last few years, the peso exchange rate has been pretty good. Now, for Canada, it's the worst exchange, but it's always retrospectively that way anyway. But I'm floating at around about 40 to 42, okay? But that changes. And I'll give you a prime example. It changes every year at Christmas time. There's so many Filipinos that send money home every year that it's actually bad for us at that time because it affects the currency rate. And just to put it in perspective, by sending $1,000, and let's put that right at around Christmas time, I'll probably lose upwards of minimum 50 to maximum almost $100 of buying power. Okay, that's like 5,000 peso difference. Okay, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's just in that little short time frame. Okay, that's significant. If you only got $1,000 and you're losing 10% of it, that's a hit. Now, another thing to keep in mind is, again, this is for people that are thinking long term. It's great for a year or two. You don't have to think about those kind of things as much. But if you're really thinking about, hey, this is my home and this is where I'm going to stay, you have no control over what the peso exchange rate is going to be. Okay. And it's gone lower. Like right now, we're, like I said, the last few years, it's been pretty good, but it has been as low as 30, some 33, even I think, if I'm not mistaken, for me, Canadian. And that's huge difference. If I'm used to right now floating at 40, 42, and it all of a sudden drops to, 30, 35, that's a big hit. And then on top of that, you combine that with, let's say you got to leave the country sooner or something like that. Those could be significant enough changes that would really disrupt your whole way of thinking and your budget plan. So those are something I really want to touch base with. And I always recommend, guys, I do make videos on budgets, and I will be making more videos on apartments and all sorts of things. And by the way, guys, if you find this helpful and you like this kind of information, do me a favor, leave a comment, subscribe, of course, share it as well. It really does help the algorithm. I'm trying to build up my channel. But also, another note, if you don't like something I'm doing or think where I could do better, leave that, let me know. Let me know where I can change or be more helpful. So, getting back to, that being a big cluster muck, right? That can really put you in a financial trouble if you don't account for that and not ready for that kind of hit. Okay, and you want to be prepared for that. And I always give advice on something. When I make these videos on budget and all sorts of things, I break it down. You can live really comfortable on $1,000. I've got a really good video on that. You should actually check it out. I've got the money in my hand and I break it down where it all goes. And I've got entertainment. I've got restaurant. I got on 1,000 Canadian. I've got an apartment with a pool in it, fully furnished, internet, everything. It's a really great little breakdown of video. But, you should never move to another country and be that your base minimum. You come with either reserve money set aside, or your pension is going to be higher than that $1,000. So you can bank a couple $100 a month, minimum for emergencies. Okay, things do come up. Like I was saying earlier about how long you can stay, they might change the fact that you can't just leave and come back right away. They might say you got to stay out of the country for minimum 3 months or something like that before you can come back in. Okay, that's going to affect your budget drastically. You want to make sure you have money for an airplane back home. That's a huge hit. They're not cheap. Okay, and of course, let's not forget medical. That's another issue. You really want to have money set aside. I'll give you another example. I got sick there a few years back. I got bitten by a mosquito there, and I got dengue, however you pronounce it. And I ended up in the hospital for 4 days. It was brutal, I tell you, man. I don't wish that upon anybody. And I had extended health care, a good coverage too. But they didn't care. When I show them here, they look at it, pretend to look at it, they didn't want it. Okay, they wanted cash before you leave the hospital. Okay. So these are things that you really want to be prepared for. Any good planner, you should have that set aside for you. Another thing I want to touch base on as well, maybe some of you guys are thinking, okay, well, when I get there, I'm going to do a little side hustle. I'm going to open up a little sorry store, a little this, a little that. Okay. Well, if you have a business plan and you're in your country, have you done business before? Then you already know just setting up a business is not an easy task. Now just think about it being that much harder in a new country. Okay, it's a great hobby. It's a great thing if you want to try and do. I'm not saying none of them are unsuccessful or nothing like that, but don't bank on it. Okay, guys, don't think that's going to be your lifesaver, because that would not be a good move. Okay, there's a lot of good business now. If you got real money, then this kind of budget talk isn't really going to be for you anyway. There's good business in real estate, apartments. There's been, some people do restaurants. There's a lot of successful stories out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not negative about it. What I'm trying to tell you is if you're on that wire and you think, you know what, I can just invest a few dollars here and this is going to make me this in return. Don't count on it. Count on the fact that you've got extra money saved for emergency fund, or your pension is higher than your budget that you're planning for. And you can play around with that money a little bit when you got extra savings or something for your little business idea or whatever it may be. That's solid advice as far as I'm coming from, my opinion. Take it as you want. But and I think I'll be doing another video on that as well, about as far as business goes. I definitely want to do a video about owning or buying apartments, all this kind of stuff. That's a whole different topic. I will say quickly though, another thing you want to mention into your budget or plan about if you're going to be there: are you driving, and are you going to want to buy your own? I rented for a very short time and then I buy. It's very cost effective, but that's a lump sum money up front, but it does save on your monthly budget. Pretty good. I mean, for me, it took me 2 years to break even, and I only count the years, the months I'm there riding. That's why it took me 2 years to break even. But guys, anyway, I just thought I'd throw that information out there for you so you can get a better little content. It's not just about your rent and your food and your entertainment. And of course, everybody says have a little money aside or whatever, but really those the peso thing is a big one. Okay, that's a huge one. The visa thing is another pretty concerning one, because you just never know. There've been some new talks about how they're trying to stricken down on it. You've had an interview after 1 year. Like I said, the Philippines is amazing that they actually have a 3 year on a visiting tourist. Like, let's face it, who visits? Sorry, on a tourist visa, who's going to be a tourist for 3 years? So again, they've got a pretty relaxed system, but that usually means something can change very drastically, because it's an extreme. Okay, 3 years is pretty decent, right? So those are all things that will really affect the long-term outcome. And again, these videos are based for people that are considering long-term. Appreciate you guys hanging around. I appreciate all your feedback. I really do want to get my channel going, so I appreciate all the support you guys give. Everybody take care and have a great day. Thanks again.